and this is Abundance Show, and I'm your host, and this is Global Abundance Organization. And right now, we are about to know an extremely beautiful story of Robin Hughes, a New Zealander born Australian citizen and living in Cambodia. So, today we'll dig down to the social impact that Robin Hughes wants to create, and what brings him to Cambodia, a third world, whereas he was born in New Zealand and he is an Australian citizen too. Robbins, over to you.
Yes, so I'm going to talk a bit about my story, and I'm going to use it to illustrate a bit about transformation and the power of mindset to turn problems and difficulties into opportunities. And so we start to look at my story, right? So you imagine a little boy, right, who, when he's born, his skull is out of alignment, his development is delayed, he struggles, right? He struggles and he's bullied and he tried to catch up at school, and he very empathetic and he cares and wants to help everybody and make things better. So he goes through and he ends up moving school, and then there he's helping the kids that are getting bullied. He's fighting off the bullies and helping, save the kids from the bullies. And he goes through and he has problems with getting sick, and that gets quite bad in high school, and he suffers a lot. He feels a lot of pain and a lot of being misunderstood and people not getting where he's coming from. He often has like insights and can see, and some people, understand about that. So sometimes when he's talking to people, he can talk about deep things and have insight, which some people appreciate, but some not really fitting in with his age group. Spending time with old people that are lonely and appreciating them, and then also spending time with younger people and being with them, but not kind of fitting. And he really wanted to, he found about the problem with desertification, right? So I'm talking about my story, right? Found out about desertification and really saw that there's a problem where he could make it, he really wanted to understand this problem, dig deep into it, see how he could solve things, how he could make things better for people. In high school, even when he was sick, he was doing geography a year ahead, and he worked on project in geography and ecology, working and biology, working on ecological, how to solve problems with forestry, and how to work with regeneration and how to solve these problems. So but then so sick, right? And so sick, could see all this possibility, all this potential of what could be done to help people. I wanted to go and study a PhD, learn everything I could about, make sure I learned everything I could do about ecology and environmental science, and go and over there to Sahel, to Africa, and plant, help people. It's not about regenerating the desert altogether. It's about helping people to think differently and live differently, because we have a quote in the Bible about how the state of the land depend on the people. So when the people are wicked, the land suffer, and when the people are good, the land prosper. And to me, this point, not necessarily that people there are good or bad, but in the past, the people, in the Sahara Desert, that used to be the breadbasket, right? It used to be the breadbasket of the Romans and I think the Greeks and the people, the ancient empires. That's where they grew all their bread, right? Because it was really fertile. It wasn't always a desert, right? They over-farmed it and turned it to desert because of the nature of the environment, that it's fragile in those situations. If you cut down the forest, then it turns to desert. You can only grow crops for a short time and then it's gone because of the climate. And then I was stuck. And I was stuck with that, and I was looking at this problem about, you know, my experience with these games, that I was distracting myself from how I was feeling. I was feeling terrible. Would wake up all groggy and not feeling well, and I would take me, or my brain slowed down. And this was about when I was 15. It would take me half of the day to get to school. I'll get there, and we would call one period, one session at school, and then one class, and then I would go home. It would take me to the evening to get home, and then I'd go to sleep. Okay, and sometimes I would actually sleep for like right through. I would sleep, you know, 24 hours. Basically, I just get up for food and then go back to sleep. Like I was really sick, right? And people don't understand, but you know, that was what it was like for me. And I went to naturopaths and to doctors. Nobody could really help me. They didn't really understand what was going on. So I went on a long journey to learn about my health. And so, you know, I managed to get on top of my health to a large degree, and I was doing much better. And I went to a camp in Australia, and I was doing a lot better, and I've been working part-time, and I got asked to go to Cambodia, and so I went to Cambodia, right, to help teach English. And I come across the Leadership and Character Development Institute, and you know, I really had a really heart for what they were doing. I, you know, really appreciated what they were doing, and I could see the value in how they're helping people, and I was really inspired by that. You know, I was really, really inspired by it. But one of my students, we called them the bikers, they went from the Leadership and Character Institute, and they would come to the Bible Education Center. They would bike there on their bicycle. And, you know, I helped to get them so that they could get their bikes repaired, so that it was easier for them to get back and forth. But one of my students, a girl, she disappeared from my class. And I asked the students, what's happening? What's the story? You know, how come she's not there? And she had been taken to a camp to be a maid in Malaysia. Okay? And for those that know, okay, that is not good, right? We went on a trip, and we went to see her parents, and to try and get her out of there, because, you know, the sex slave trade is terrible. Okay, maids going to Malaysia meant sex slavery, right? The chances are that's what it meant. It turned out that her sister had already been sold over there. And so she was trapped, and there was nothing you could do. You know, and I was with a policeman. My friend is a police. He works with the police, and he's a top translator in Cambodia. So he's reasonably high up in the police, and he got threatened. Somebody claiming to be Hon Seng's nephew's bodyguard threatened him, you know, threatening his life. You know, stay out of this, or what else. And my friend, I respected him a lot, so I believe him. He said there's nothing you can do, right? There's nothing you can do. So that really, really broke my heart, you know, to see people, you know, suffering like this. And, you know, like when I went back to New Zealand, you know, I dealt with that in the school, the LCDI, had to close. And so when I was leaving, I helped to organize funding to help them so they could keep going, because they were going to have to close. So people in New Zealand, you know, through my parents, they organize and talk to people and fundraise to help them to keep doing the good work that they're doing. But you know what struck me is, you know, people go over to Cambodia and places like that to help, right? But when people go over to help, some people are genuine and they care, or maybe people are genuine and they think they care, but then they get focused on the project of what they're trying to do, and they lose track. They lose track of the people and who gets hurt on the way, the experience of the people, the journey, right? And, you know, when I was getting help for this later on, because, you know, I worried about things, and, you know, I had mindset issues, but I worry about problems and how people treat each other. So this is my heart, you know, to worry about the difficult things and worry about, you know, what could I do to help? What could I do when these problems are so difficult with people's behavior and with their mindset and how they're thinking and how they approach things? that people, you know, they say they're Christian, right? It's probably the same, you know, be the same with Islam. People say that they're believers, right? But if they say they're a believer and they do not act in love, right? If they don't act in love, then it's not true, right? If God or Jesus or whoever the people that you're following, if they say that in order if you follow me, you need to walk in love, you need to show love, and it needs to be genuine, right? And in your action, and you need to obey me, and you know, to obey me, you mean that you walk in love. You have to love your brother, you have to show love to people, you have to show care. And if we are trying to show that we're a good person and we're trying to do projects to prove our goodness, but we are hurting people on the way, and we're not showing to people love on the way, then that we're not Christian. We're not Christian. We're not following God. You know, we're not following Jesus. I imagine the same with if Muhammad, you know, he say this is what you need to do. You need to show love towards your fellow man, and you'll say you follow him and you act in hate. Then you're not his follower, right? It's fake, right? It's fake. It's not genuine. So you know, when I go to get help, and I go and I get help through EFT, emotional freedom technique, which really helps to rewire your thinking. It looks at the problem and attaches it to an affirmation. It does a switch, which helps to rewire your thinking and helps as a way to help shift your mindset. And I at one stage I just broke into tears, right? And my mom was there as well, and my mom thought that maybe be many things reason why I so upset, why I so affected, and what I worried about. I was worried about people getting hurt, right? I was worried about people getting hurt. I was worried about this is the way that people behave toward me and other people. I'm worried about other people getting hurt. I've seen over the years since I was young, I've seen people hurting other people, right? And it's not right. Okay? It's not right if, in the name of God, in the name of Jesus, and I would think the same in the name of Muhammad, in terms of Islam, if you're hurting people, and this is not right. This is not what it's about, right? And so that deeply concerned me. And so, I have had to do a lot of work. There's many sleepless nights where I could not sleep because I worried. I worried about, feeling responsible that I should do something. There's something that I should do. There should be something I can do to make a difference, to stop people getting hurt, right? To stop these problems. So when I say I'm looking at the wicked problems, right? There's the big wicked problems, but there is all this problems around human behavior and our mindset. So we can look at big problems like in terms of our life and the synergy of our life. When I'm talking about learning, working, and playing, and our well-being. But we can also look at things like to do with our spiritual side, to do with our empathy and how we interact and how we enact change, how we make a difference through what we do. And that's what I spent my time thinking about, right? So while other people, maybe they're well, and healthy, and they were able to go and earn money and do things, I wasn't well enough, right? So what was I doing with my time? I was thinking about the problem and how to solve them. Now, in many ways, people say that, I know from experience, I have suffered a lot of pain in my life, right? People say that, what doesn't kill you make you stronger, right? That this idea is that you push, when things are difficult, when you get out of comfort, that somehow this is a place where you grow a lot, and you can this is transformative, more transformative when you outside of comfort, and yes, if being uncomfortable can force you to change, because the natural direction is you always want to return to comfort, right? So if you're always out there, it's bad for your health, right? It's terrible for your health, but it forces you to try to change and that. But the flip side is, if you are in comfort and you have you have the abundance, you have the resources to do things, then you can make things happen, right? So, and a lot about change is about allowing change. So when you are struggling, when you're fighting, it's difficult to allow change. So there's one aspect is when you go to as low as you can go, that teach you to be humble. And you need to be humble in order to learn and to grow, right? You need to be humble. You need to recognize that you are weak and your limitations in order to be able to grow. So that's one side. But on the other side, you need to feel comfortable enough so that you can relax and you can allow the change to happen. So it's two sides, right? So to have abundance, yes, the suffering that we have, we can use it for good. We can use an opportunity for good. We can use an opportunity to grow, but we need to be able to relax and allow things to change. And that can be just as hard or even harder than the pain and the suffering, right? It's very difficult to let go and allow. It's very difficult to let go and instead of trying to control things. When I talk about the people who go to to create change, and they're trying to control things, right? And so the people along the way suffer, right? So what I'm saying is, in order to be able to really let love affect us, and if we're really going to believe and act in belief or faith, then we need to let go. We need to allow. So we need to let go. One thing is through humility. We need to be humble, but we need to feel safe enough to let go and allow. So it's almost like two-step in a way, right? We need humility, but we also need to feel safe enough and comfortable enough to change. Because while we are trying to control, while we're rigid, while we're fighting, we cannot allow change to happen. We're stuck, right? So for me, I was stuck for a long time. I was trying too hard. I was trying to do it myself. I'm trying to do it by myself, and I can't do it by myself, right? We have to allow love to work in us. We need to allow ourselves to believe. When we have doubt and fear, they result in scarcity, and that we think in terms of scarcity. We think poor thinking and limitations, and we can see what we don't have. We think I need this to be able to succeed, but I don't have it. I don't have what I need, right? And that is very difficult. You see, this is where I need to go. This is what I need to do, but I can't do it because I don't have what I need. On the other hand, if everything's go well for you all the time, right? You think, well, I can do it by myself. Right? I don't need anybody else. I don't need anything else. I don't need to allow. I can control it. I can make it happen by myself, right? So this is where arrogance and pride, they stand in the way of being able to succeed. Maybe we end up succeeding for ourselves, but what about the other people? What about the journey? What about making a difference for other people? What about really being able to help other people? So, like I grew up with this idea that if you have a lot of money, if you have a lot of resources, if you have a lot of abundance, then that would somehow corrupt you, right? That you'll become bad. right? There's this idea that come out, partly through people with Christian beliefs, but possibly for other beliefs as well, that if you have too much success, then and too much power or whatever, then the result is that you end up twisted and end up with problem, right? So for me, right, I think about these problems. I think about this, and I think about, well, we're told that what's impossible for us is not impossible for God, right? And we can look in terms of love and stuff as well, love and belief. We cannot do it by ourselves. We need to have love. We need to have belief. So maybe if we do it by ourselves, we be corrupted, right? If we are doing good things and it go to our head, then we end up on a bad path. We can end up on a bad path, right? um, but if we are focused on allowing love, and we're focused on allowing a belief to impact, it's not us that is doing the work. It's not us that is working, right? It's not us that are doing the work. It's the love. It's the belief. It's working through us, right? It's working through us. It's not us. Does that make sense to you? Like, it's not us that are doing it. Our work is just simply allowing. It's allowing it to take place. So we can be humble and we can have abundance at the same time, because we can recognize, where does the abundance come from, right? The abundance doesn't come from us. Our job, our role, in order to make impact and help people, is to allow that love to take effect. Let it affect us and let it affect other people. So, we talk about reward. What will our reward be? For me, what my thinking is, my reward is seeing people have less pain, have less suffering. I don't want people to suffer like I have, right? If I can help people to have better life than I have, to not have the pain that I had, that's what I want, right? I want people to flourish. I want people to have success. I want people to be able to synergize their lives, learn, work, play, and have well-being, and combine it together and be able to make impact and make a difference in other people's lives. Not because it's them that's making a difference, but the way that they make a difference is through allowing something that's more powerful than them, right? There's power more powerful than any of us. And the power is, when we talk about synergy, the power is when we work together, when we allow love and faith to take effect, right? It's not about in the future, I going to live, be on a cloud playing a harp and, partying, right? It's not about that. It's not about, to me, it's not about, I want to see in the future people, people being happy, and I want to see an end to suffering. I want to see things be better, right? But that is the reward, right? That is the reward for me. I want to see things better for people. For me, what happens to me? That's not really important. That's not what is really important. That's what it's not what it's about. Not for me, right? I want. When I hear a story about a girl that been raped by her relative, that really hurt me, right? That I feel like that is not right. There is a big problem here. If we can make a difference on people's lives that are hurting, if we can help prevent in some way some suffering for people, if we can make people help people to have more abundance in their lives, that's what I'm looking for. That's the reward. I don't care about money. I don't really care about the future in terms of receiving some reward. The reward is in knowing that people's lives are better. Does that make sense?
Sure, geez, this does. Would you like to have few words on impact, social impact?
I think social impact is a way that we can, it is so meaningful for us, right? It gives meaning to our lives. If we can make impact on other people, it feels so good. We're looking at, a song on basic sign on mindset for kid, and it's just asking, ask if people need help. If somebody needs help, ask if they need help, right? And this idea of asking people if they need help and being able to help them, right? That's rewarding for the people that are receiving the help. Feel amazing. Especially some young kid or whatever. They help their grandparent, they help their neighbor. Like it's amazing. And then they feel like so warm and fuzzy. It's like wow, this is great. This kid, showing this care and kindness. The world in the future is going to be better because there's people, young kids like this, right? And then when we ask for help, we provide an opportunity for other people to make impact, to make a difference, right? And when you think about the people smiling, the people happy, right? To know that they are making some difference, that they're making impact, right? We easily, if we focus on pleasure and people focus on all sorts of entertainment and ways that they can, if they have money, then they can, if we only have more money we can do this, if we only have more money we can do that, we can party, we can have fun, right? But what the impact of being able to make a difference in somebody's life is incredible, right? People can have that if we can help people embrace their mindset of abundance, of giving and receiving, and that gift, right? That gift. And you talk about, in terms of the big problems like war, and if we can break down the mindset and build up with a more positive mindset, help when people they experience the good, they experience the abundance that come from asking questions, asking for help, and receiving help. When they receive that abundance and they form that habit of asking and answering, right? Then that form train tracks in your brain, right? You're forming train tracks in your brain. You're associating, instead of doing social media, which you're trying to trick your brain. You're tricking your brain. It's saying, oh, you're going to form these. You should be forming this connection. You should be, forming these emotional bonds, and you should be receiving these benefits to yourself from the social interaction, and you're not getting it, right? It's a lie. Most of the time it's a lie. It's an addiction. You're not actually receiving what you're expecting to receive, so you keep coming back for more, but you feel empty, right? So when we're talking about this, we're talking about instead real abundance, not fake, real connection, not fake connection. We're talking about making it different in people's lives. And it starts very small, right? We think, I had this problem that I always think about the big problems. How can I solve the big problems, right? But really, it's small, right? A small thing. You ask a question, right? That's not big. It doesn't take much to ask a question. It doesn't take much to answer a question or to give aid or assistance or help. And it makes so much difference to people, right? Even just, smiling at someone. Maybe their day is terrible and they think, I just had enough of life. I just can't do it anymore. And they say you smile at them and like give them hope. And they think, well, maybe the life is worth living. Maybe there is something there, and maybe inspire them a little bit to have some hope, and maybe to smile at somebody else. And they think, oh, when I smile at somebody, right, I'm making a difference for them, right? Maybe even subconsciously, right? Maybe it take away and it create a ripple effect where more and more people are being smiled at, and they're receiving the smile, that's receiving this gift, or if it's a laugh or whatever it is, right? They're receiving it and they pass it on, right?
Okay, Robins, you always emphasize on curiosity and asking questions. Would you like to brief in a 3 lines or like in small time, in small period of time. Why do you? What's the philosophy behind asking questions or curiosity that you always emphasize?
So I don't know, but I think when you ask questions, when you ask good questions, it enables you to find good answers, right? So uh, that is the that is giving and receiving, right? When we give a good question, we get back a good answer. Maybe it takes some time, right, to get it. Maybe it ticks away in our brain for a long time, or maybe we ask somebody, or we research it, or whatever. But then we get the gift back, right? We get this gift back. So I think it's sort of similar, in terms of interacting with other people. But when we interact with questions in themselves, they have their own reward, right? Ask generous question, we get generous answer, and that's brilliant, because when we understand things, that gives us the power to be able to make things better, to transform, to change the way we look at things, the way we think about things. It helps to bring abundance, right? When we're asking questions at what we're doing, we are triggering abundance.
That's amazing. Today, dear audience, today it was Robin Hughes who was telling us about, I mean, what makes him bring to Cambodia, a third world living his own country, New Zealand, and he's also a citizen of Australia, and that's the first word. And this is his amazing story, and there's a cause. He wants to make his God happy. He wants to make himself happy, and that's the inspiration behind what he thinks. And that's this one of the noblest of the reasons that one can have to lead a happier life. And to serve the purpose, he is facing all the hardships, and he has been facing the all hardships, and with the sweetly, and he is ready to face even more hardships, and with open heart and smiling face, and he is not complaining, and he is keeping doing everything, and he's not stopping, and he's not stoppable, and he'll be keeping, and that's amazing. This is what I mean. I really salute you, Robbins Hughes, for being that great personality, because I mean, generally what we do when somebody dies or leaves the place, and he's no more available to us, then only we value the person. But I want to value you when you're here, when you're in front of me, when I'm talking to you, not after you're gone or somebody's gone, and then we start praising the person. No, I do not want to repent that I was interacting with Robin Hughes, and he was great man of my time when I was alive also, and he's been doing such an impact. I'm truly touched. You're touching my heart, and so be doing to a lot other people who listen to you, and who's access to you. Robin, thank you so much. Till tomorrow 7 o'clock. Bye.